You wake up and within 60 seconds it starts. The phone. The notifications. The low-grade hum of something you can't name. You check your bank account. You check your calendar. You check the news. You are not even out of bed yet and already your mind is somewhere else, somewhere ahead, scanning the horizon for threats that haven't arrived. And here's what nobody tells you. The anxiety you feel is not caused by the world being dangerous. It's caused by you trying to make it safe. The most costly mistake you make every single day is believing that if you just plan enough, earn enough, control enough, you will eventually arrive at a life where nothing can go wrong. That place does not exist. And the chase is what's killing you. Security is not something you find. It's something you build by abandoning the search for it. Say that to yourself and notice how your body reacts. Part of you recoils. Part of you thinks, no, I need the plan, I need the savings, I need the guarantee. And that part, that desperate grasping part, is the architect of your suffering. Let me explain why. We live in a culture that has made unprecedented efforts to eliminate risk. You have insurance for your health, your car, your home, your travel, your phone. You have algorithms predicting what you'll want to buy before you know you want it. You have apps that track your sleep, your heart rate, your steps, your calories, your investments, your productivity. You have more tools for control than any human beings who have ever lived. And you are more anxious than any human beings who have ever lived. That is not a coincidence. It is a direct causal chain. The pursuit of security manufactures the very anxiety it aims to eliminate. Think about how it works. You try to make the future certain. You build a plan. The plan covers some contingencies but reveals others you hadn't considered. Now you have new things to worry about. So you build a bigger plan. That plan covers more, but it exposes even more unknowns. The circle widens. The horizon of your anxiety expands faster than your ability to cover it. You are running on a treadmill where every step forward reveals 10 more steps you haven't taken. This is the feedback loop of security seeking. Each attempt to guarantee outcomes reveals new uncertainties. And here's the cruel part. You mistake the anxiety for evidence that you need to try harder. You think, I'm worried because I haven't done enough. So you do more. You optimize more. You research more. You rehearse conversations that haven't happened yet. You catastrophize scenarios that exist only in your imagination. And you call this being responsible. Most people call this being prepared. The Stoics would call it being possessed. You are possessed by a ghost called the future. You are living in a house that hasn't been built yet, furnishing it with fears that haven't materialized, and wondering why you feel homeless in the only moment you actually inhabit. Here's what nobody wants to say out loud. The future does not exist. It never has. It is a construction of your mind, a projection, a guess dressed up as a certainty. And the past is the same. Memory. Story. Edited footage. The only thing you have ever experienced, the only thing you will ever experience, is this moment, right now, as it unfolds. But you spend almost none of your time here. You spend it in rehearsal and review, in anticipation and regret, mentally living in times that are not real while the only real time passes unnoticed. Alan Watts saw this clearly. He understood that the feeling of insecurity is not caused by life's actual dangers but by the mental habit of trying to live in a future that does not yet exist. Your anxiety is not a response to reality. It is a response to your thinking about reality. It is a response to a fiction. And you are treating that fiction as if it were a threat in the room with you right now. Your body does not know the difference. When you imagine losing your job, your nervous system fires as if it's happening. When you envision a relationship ending, your chest tightens as if the words have been spoken. You are being attacked by your own imagination, and you are calling it planning. Now here is where the Stoics enter, and they enter with a blade, not a blanket. Epictetus would not tell you to simply relax and accept everything. He would tell you to get precise about what is actually yours to manage. He would ask you a question that cuts through the fog. Is this within my control? If yes, act. If no, let it go. Not later. Now. The anxiety you feel about the future, is it within your control? The future itself, is that within your control? No. What is within your control is how you respond to the uncertainty. What is within your control is the character you bring to the unknown. What is within your control is whether you meet chaos with panic or with steady, deliberate presence. Epictetus taught that the surest path to misery is desiring things outside your control. The surest path to tranquility is desiring only your own virtue, your own excellence of character, which no external event can take from you. This is not apathy. This is the opposite of apathy. Apathy says nothing matters. Stoicism says only one thing matters, and it is the one thing you can guarantee. Your response. Your integrity. Your discipline. Your clarity. Everything else, the economy, other people's opinions, the weather, disease, accidents, betrayal, loss, all of it moves on its own current and you do not steer that current. But here is the dangerous line, and you need to hear this clearly. There is a difference between Stoic detachment and modern apathy, and most people cross the line without knowing it. Stoic detachment means you stop trying to control what you cannot control so that you can bring full force to what you can. It is strategic. It is alive. It is engaged. Modern apathy says, nothing is in my control, so why bother? It is defeat. It is numbness. It is the slow death of caring. The Stoic is not numb. The Stoic is precise. The Stoic feels everything, but channels everything. The Stoic does not say, I don't care what happens. The Stoic says, I care deeply about how I show up, regardless of what happens. Do you see the difference? One is freedom. The other is collapse. And our culture confuses them constantly. You hear someone say, I'm just letting go, and what they often mean is, I've given up. That is not letting go. That is lying down in the current and calling it surrender. Real letting go is active. It is a discipline. It is the deliberate release of what you cannot hold so that your hands are free to grasp what you can. Now, there is a convergence here that is worth slowing down for. What says surrender to the unknown? Epictetus says master your response to the unknown. At first glance, these look different. One says let go. The other says take control. But look deeper and they are pointing at the same door from opposite sides. What's is saying, stop fighting the nature of reality. Reality is uncertain. Impermanent. Unfixed. When you fight that, you suffer. When you accept it, you are free. Epictetus is saying, stop fighting the nature of your power. Your power is limited to your own mind and character. When you fight that, you suffer. When you accept it, you are free. Both are saying the same thing in different languages. Accept what is. Stop grasping for what isn't. Live in the only moment that exists. The difference is emphasis. What's emphasizes the letting go. Epictetus emphasizes the building. What says, stop clinging to the illusion of security. Epictetus says, build a fortress that doesn't depend on security. And the practical middle path, the path that actually works in a human life, is both. Radical acceptance of uncertainty paired with rigorous self-mastery. You accept that you cannot know what will happen. And you train yourself to be ready for whatever does. Not ready in the sense of having a plan for every scenario. That is the old trap. Ready in the sense of trusting that whatever arrives, you will meet it with clarity, with courage, with discipline. That trust is not naive. It is earned. It is earned through daily practice, through repeated encounters with difficulty, through choosing the harder thing over and over until hard things stop frightening you. Marcus Aurelius understood this at a depth most of us will never have to reach. He was emperor of Rome. He faced war, plague, betrayal, the death of children, the weight of an empire. And in the middle of all of it, he wrote to himself, not for publication, not for an audience, just to stay sane. He reminded himself that the natural order is inherently unstable. That everything changes. That everything passes. That the universe is transformation and your life is opinion. He did not find peace despite the instability of the world. He found peace in it. He accepted that the world he governed was uncontrollable and he turned his governing inward. He could not control whether plague ravaged his cities. He could control whether he remained just, temperate, courageous, and rational while it did. He could not control whether his generals betrayed him. He could control whether he responded with vengeance or with measured clarity. He could not control whether his son would be worthy of the throne. He could control whether he was worthy of his own life. This is the Stoic case for embracing uncertainty. Not because uncertainty is fun. Not because it is romantic. Because it is the truth. And fighting the truth is the source of your pain. You are exhausted. I know you are. You are exhausted from trying to hold everything together, from scanning every horizon, from living in a state of low-grade emergency that never fully resolves. You go on vacation and you can't relax. You achieve the goal and you immediately fear losing it. You get the relationship and you start worrying about it ending. You get the job and you start dreading the day you lose it. You cannot enjoy anything because you are too busy protecting it. And here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. You cannot protect it. Nothing is protected. Everything you have, everything you are, everything you love, exists on borrowed time. That sounds bleak if you are still clinging. It sounds like freedom if you have let go. Because if nothing is protected, then the energy you spend protecting is wasted. And if that energy is freed, you can spend it on something else. You can spend it on actually living. On actually being present with the people you love while you have them. On actually tasting your food. On actually feeling the sun on your face. On actually being here, in this moment, in this body, in this life, instead of in the imaginary future you are constantly fleeing toward. The body already knows this. Your body is a master of present moment living. Your heart beats without you directing it. Your lungs breathe without you scheduling it. Your food digests without you managing it. The body does not worry about tomorrow. It responds to what is happening now, intelligently, spontaneously, without commentary. And when you override that intelligence with anxious thinking, you suffer. When you trust it, you function. The body is not trying to get somewhere. It is not on a journey toward a destination. It is a process, unfolding moment by moment, and it is complete at every point. What's used the metaphor of a dance or music? You do not dance to get to a particular spot on the floor. The point of the dancing is the dancing. You do not listen to music to get to the end of the song. The point is the music itself. But you treat your life as a journey toward a destination. You treat each moment as a means to a future end. And because the future never arrives, you are always living for a tomorrow that never comes. You are always almost there, never there. And you wonder why you feel restless. You wonder why you feel like something is missing. Nothing is missing. You are just not here. You are somewhere else, somewhere that doesn't exist. Now let me give you something concrete, because this is not a philosophy lecture. This is an operating system, and it needs to run in your daily life. Here is what I want you to do. The next time you feel that tightness in your chest, that spiral of what if, that compulsion to plan and replan and plan again, I want you to stop. Not suppress. Not distract. Stop. And ask yourself one question. Is this happening now? Not, could this happen? Not, what if this happens? Is this happening now, in this moment, in this room, in this body? 9 times out of 10, the answer is no. The thing you fear is not here. It is a projection. A ghost. And you are treating it as real. When you notice that, when you actually see that you are being terrorized by your own imagination, something shifts. The grip loosens. Not because you forced it. Because you saw through it. Awareness itself is the path. Not a new belief. Not a better plan. Not a different religion or a different productivity system. A fundamental shift from thinking about your life to directly experiencing it. From narrating the moment to inhabiting it. From being lost in the story to being awake in the reality. And here is the Stoic discipline that pairs with this. When you identify what is actually happening now, ask the Epictetus question. Is this within my control? If the answer is yes, act. Do not deliberate. Do not overthink. Act with clarity and conviction. If the answer is no, let it go. Not with resentment. Not with a sigh of defeat. With the calm authority of someone who knows the limits of their power and respects those limits. You do not argue with gravity. Why do you argue with uncertainty? It is the same kind of law. It is the nature of things. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that the universe is change and life is opinion. He did not mean that your opinions don't matter. He meant that your experience of life is shaped by the interpretation you impose on it, not by the events themselves. 2 people lose everything. One is destroyed. One is freed. The event is identical. The opinion is different. The suffering is not in the event. The suffering is in the interpretation. And the interpretation is yours. That is your power. That is the one thing no circumstance can take from you. Your power to decide what something means. Your power to choose your response. Your power to stand in the middle of chaos and say, I do not control this, but I control myself, and that is enough. That is more than enough. That is everything. Now I want to address something directly, because I know some of you are already constructing the counterargument. You are thinking, this sounds nice, but I have real responsibilities. I have a mortgage. I have children. I have a business. I can't just embrace uncertainty and float through life. And you are right. You can't. That is not what this is. This is not floating. This is not passivity. This is the most active stance you can take. You embrace uncertainty so that you can act with full force in the present instead of acting with half your mind in the future. You accept that outcomes are not guaranteed so that you can focus completely on the excellence of your effort. You let go of the result so that you can pour everything into the process. Do you understand how powerful that is? When you stop worrying about whether you will succeed, you become free to actually do the work. When you stop protecting yourself from failure, you become free to attempt things worth attempting. When you stop trying to control what people think of you, you become free to speak the truth. The pursuit of security makes you small. It makes you cautious, guarded, calculating, tense. It makes you live a smaller life than the one available to you, because every bold move carries risk and you have trained yourself to avoid risk. But risk is not the enemy. Risk is the texture of a life actually lived. A life without risk is not safe. It is dead. And you can feel it. You can feel the deadness in your carefully managed routine. You can feel the flatness of a life where nothing unexpected is allowed in. You have built a fortress and you are sitting in it alone, and you call it stability. It is not stability. It is a cage. And you built it yourself, brick by brick, with every compromise you made to avoid uncertainty, with every passion you suppressed because it might not work out, with every honest conversation you avoided because you couldn't control the response. The cage is comfortable. The cage is familiar. But you are not free in it. And you know it. You still don't feel whole. You still don't feel like you. Because the real you is not the cautious manager of risks. The real you is the one who, somewhere beneath all the planning and protecting, remembers what it feels like to be fully alive. And being fully alive requires contact with the unknown. It requires stepping past the edge of what you can guarantee. It requires faith. Not belief. Faith. There is a difference, and it matters. Belief is a rigid intellectual holding to propositions about the future. Belief says, this will work out. Belief is actually a sign of doubt, because you only believe firmly in things you are not sure of. Belief is the mind trying to force certainty where there is none. Faith is different. Faith is a relaxed, open trust in life that does not require certainty. Faith says, I do not know what will happen, and I am willing to act fully anyway. Faith is the willingness to live without guarantees. To show up, to commit, to love, to create, to build, without knowing if any of it will last. That is not weakness. That is the highest form of strength. The person who needs guarantees before they act will never act. The person who can act without guarantees is unstoppable. And here is the paradox that ties it all together. When you stop needing security, you become secure. Not in the external sense. Not in the sense that nothing bad will happen. In the internal sense. In the sense that whatever happens, you will not be broken. You will bend. You will adapt. You will respond. You will find your footing in the new terrain, because you have trained yourself to do exactly that. Real security is not the absence of threat. Real security is the confidence that you can meet whatever threat arrives. And that confidence is not given. It is built. It is built through discipline. Through daily practice. Through the repeated choice to face what is difficult instead of fleeing from it. Through the repeated choice to stay present when your mind wants to escape into the future. Through the repeated choice to focus on what you control and release what you don't. This is the synthesis. What gives you the acceptance? The Stoics give you the mastery. You need both. Acceptance without mastery is passivity. Mastery without acceptance is control, and control is the disease you are trying to cure. Accept what you cannot control. Master what you can. Live in the present. Train your character. Trust the process. Stop running from the unknown and start walking into it with your eyes open. Let me bring you back to where we started. You wake up. The phone. The notifications. The hum. But this time, before you reach for the phone, you lie still. You feel your breath. You feel the weight of your body on the bed. You notice the thoughts already starting to form, already reaching forward into the day, into the week, into the year. And you let them pass. Not by force. By recognition. You see them for what they are. Projections. Stories. Not reality. Reality is this breath. This body. This moment. And in this moment, nothing is wrong. In this moment, you are not behind. You are not failing. You are not at risk. You are here. Alive. Breathing. And that is enough to begin. You do not need to solve the future before you get out of bed. You need to get out of bed and meet the future as it arrives. That is the practice. Not once. Not as a one-time realization. Every day. Every moment. The practice of returning. The practice of releasing. The practice of trusting that you are enough for whatever comes. Security is not something you find. It's something you build by abandoning the search for it. And what you build, when you stop searching, is not a wall. It is a spine. Something that holds you upright no matter what the world throws. Something that cannot be taken by layoffs or illness or heartbreak or time. Something that is yours in the deepest sense of the word. So stop chasing the ghost. Stop living in a future that doesn't exist. Stop trading the aliveness of this moment for the false comfort of a plan that will never fully hold. The world is uncertain. It always has been. It always will be. And you are still here. Standing in the middle of it all. And that, if you let it be, is enough. Stay disciplined.